taxi idled, its engine a low thrum against the humid Bangkok night. Arin Ari Vongvichai stared up at the Sathorn Unique Tower, a skeletal middle finger pointed at the heavens. 49 stories of petrified ambition, a concrete tombstone to his father's dreams, and now to Nari's reckless courage. His knuckles, scarred from countless extractions and close calls, tightened on the worn leather of his tactical backpack. 25 years. 25 years since the '97 crash, since the dream of luxury condos turned into a nightmare of rebar and regret. Since his father, an early investor, a man broken by the tower's unfinished promise, found his final piece at the bottom of a bottle and then the Chao Phraya River. Arin, barely a teenager then, had watched his family's world crumble, the tower a silent, mocking witness. He joined the Royal Thai Police's elite Entourage 26, honed his body and mind into a weapon, all to escape the ghost of that failure. Now, the ghost had pulled him back in. Nari, his brilliant, infuriating younger sister. Fearless, obsessed with the urban legends swirling around the Sathorn Unique, the whispers of a colossal, hungry spirit. She'd gone in, of course, with her tiny documentary crew, seeking truth, or perhaps just a good story. 2 days ago, a single corrupted video file had landed in his secure cloud storage. He replayed it in his mind, the memory a fresh wound. Shaky, low-light footage. The excited chatter of Nari and her crew, muted by the echoing vastness of the tower's interior. Then, a sudden guttural scream from one of her team. The camera spun wildly, catching a glimpse of a shadow, impossibly tall, thin as a razor's edge, falling over them like a shroud. A sickening thud, then the audio distorting, Nari's panicked whisper choked with terror, slicing through the static. Asterisk Man Lua Hai Mang. Man Yang Miu Mak. Asterisk, it's so hungry. It's still so hungry. The taxi driver glanced. At him in the rearview mirror, a flicker of apprehension in his eyes. The tower cast a long, oppressive shadow, even from this distance. Are you sure, Crop? Many bad spirits there. No good. Arin slid a handful of baht across the seat. Just drop me here. He stepped out, the cacophony of Bangkok muted by the tower's silent judgment. The air felt heavy, charged. He moved with the fluid grace of a predator, melting into the shadows of the abandoned market stalls that ringed the base of the skyscraper. His gear was minimal but effective, climbing harness, carabiners, ascenders, a compact breaching charge, a silenced Glock 19, and a comms unit. His phone, tucked deep in a secure pocket, held a crude floor plan of the tower, pieced together from Urban Explorer forums and old blueprints. The perimeter fence, once a deterrent, was now a tattered suggestion. Arin found a section bent inward, a silent invitation. He slipped through, the crunch of dry leaves underfoot, startlingly loud in the sudden quiet. The tower loomed, a concrete jungle gym designed by a madman. Scaffolding rusted like cancerous growths, rebar twisted into skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. Graffiti, vibrant and defiant, covered every accessible surface. Stylized tigers, cryptic messages, the signatures of countless urban explorers. He entered through a gaping hole in the lobby, a black maw that swallowed the moonlight. The air inside was thick with dust, the metallic tang of decay, and something else. Something ancient and cloying, like stale blood. The lobby was a cathedral of ruin, vast and echoing. Fallen ceiling tiles littered the floor like forgotten dreams. A grand staircase, once intended for opulent entrances, now spiraled into darkness, its marble cracked, its railing rusted away in places. Arin moved with practiced efficiency, his headlamp a focused beam against the gloom. He bypassed the main stairwell, knowing it would be a death trap of unstable concrete. Instead, he sought out the service shafts. the vertical arteries of the building. His plan was simple. Ascend, find Nari, get out. He found a promising service shaft, the metal door hanging askew on one hinge. Inside, the elevator car was long gone, probably scavenged for scrap years ago. What remained was a yawning chasm of concrete and steel cable, disappearing into the infinite darkness above and below. A faint, almost imperceptible breeze whispered through the shaft, carrying with it a faint, sweet smell. Like jasmine, but rotten, Arin secured his ascender to a thick, rusted cable, testing his weight. He began his ascent, a solitary figure against the vast, oppressive silence. The climb was grueling, a relentless test of endurance and nerve. Each floor was a carbon copy of urban decay. Vast, empty spaces, open to the elements. The Bangkok skyline, a distant glitter through the missing window panes. His headlamp picked out discarded syringes, empty beer bottles, and crude lean-tos, evidence of the squatters who called this derelict skeleton home. He reached the 12th floor, pausing on a crumbling landing to catch his breath. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the distant hum of the city and the creak of the building shifting around him. He swept his headlamp across a wall, revealing a sprawling, angry red graffiti tag. Asterisk hungry. Asterisk hungry. Hungry, hungry, hungry. A chill, colder than the night air, traced its way down his spine. As he moved deeper into the floor, a sound reached him. A low, rhythmic thudding, like a heartbeat. He froze, his hand instinctively going to the grip of his Glock. He moved cautiously, his parkour training allowing him to navigate the debris-strewn floor with silent ease. He rounded a corner, his headlamp illuminating a makeshift camp. A small fire flickered in a rusted barrel, casting dancing shadows on the walls. And there, by the fire, was a man. He was lean, wiry, with eyes that darted around like a trapped bird. His face was a roadmap of scars and grime, but a quick, disarming smile flashed as he saw Arin. "Well, well, well," the man said, his voice a gravelly whisper. "Another tourist for the ghost tower." He spoke Thai, but with an accent Arin couldn't quite place. "What brings a well-dressed ghost like you to our humble abode?" Arin kept his posture relaxed, but his gaze was sharp, assessing.
"My sister, Nari Vongvichai. She came here with a film crew. Have you seen her?"
The man's smile faded slightly, replaced by a flicker of genuine concern, or a very good imitation of it. "Nari? The documentary girl? Ah, she was a brave one. Too brave. I tried to warn her. This place, it's not just abandoned, you know? It's alive." He gestured around with a thin hand. "The ghost, it doesn't like cameras." "Who are you?" Arin asked, his voice low. "Jet," the man replied, extending a hand. "Urban explorer, squatter, connoisseur of forgotten places, and, apparently, a reluctant tour guide for the desperate." He dropped his hand when Arin didn't take it. "So, your sister. She's in trouble. Deeper trouble than even I expected. I saw her, a few floors up, with some other men. Bad men. They took her." "Who?" Jet hesitated, his eyes darting to the shadows. "A powerful man. Rich. Superstitious. He uses this place, the tower, for rituals. To keep his luck. He thinks the tower is a powerful place. A nexus. And he thinks your sister, she's a special offering. Angered the spirit, she did, by filming it." Arin felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. Thanom. It had to be Thanom. The ruthless tycoon who had personally bankrupted his father, feeding on the carcass of his family's dreams. The thought of Nari, a sacrifice to that monster, and the tower's hungry ghost, ignited a white-hot fury within him. "You know Thanom?" Arin asked, his voice barely a whisper. Jet nodded slowly. I've seen him. And his men, they go to the very top. The penthouse. He's made a shrine up there. They call it the Heart of the Pret. He looked at Arin, a calculating glint in his eye. You want to get her back? You'll need a guide. Someone who knows every secret passage, every crumbling ledge. This tower, it has 1,000 ways to kill you before the ghost even gets a chance. He paused, then added, and I want to help. She was a good kid, Nari. Didn't deserve this. Against his better judgment, Arin felt a flicker of hope. Jet's knowledge of the tower was undeniable. The man seemed to genuinely care about Nari. He had no other choice. Lead the way, Arin said, holstering his Glock. Jet grinned, a flash of white in the grime. Excellent. Follow me, Arin. This is going to be a fun climb. The climb with Jet was a dizzying, perilous dance. Jet was a phantom, his slight frame flowing through gaps in the concrete, across precariously balanced planks, and up rebar ladders that screamed with every step. He navigated crumbling stairwells, squeezed through maintenance tunnels, and even led Arin across exposed girders hundreds of feet above the ground, the wind a constant, unsettling shriek in their ears. As they ascended, the atmosphere grew heavier, the air colder despite the Bangkok humidity. The feeling of being watched intensified, a prickling sensation on Arin's neck. He saw more of the hungry graffiti, sometimes scrawled in blood-red paint, sometimes carved deep into the concrete. On the 30th floor, Jet pointed to a darkened doorway. Maintenance shaft. Leads all the way to the top, mostly. But it's where they saw it last. Saw what? Arin asked, his hand drifting to his pistol. Jet's eyes were wide, a genuine fear in them now. The Pret. The hungry ghost. It moves through the shadows. Sometimes it just watches from the windows. A colossal shadow, they say. Like a man, but stretched, starved. A mouth like a needle's eye, a belly swollen with nothing but emptiness. Arin felt a tremor of something primal, deeper than fear. He pushed it down. He'd faced down cultists, drug lords, terrorists. A ghost, however ancient and hungry, was just another target. They continued their ascent, the light from Bangkok becoming a glittering carpet far below. As they climbed higher, the whispers started. Faint, insidious murmurs just at the edge of hearing. Arin tried to dismiss them as the wind or the creaking of the building, but they sounded too much like voices, familiar voices. On the 42nd floor, as they traversed a narrow, exposed walkway, the whispers intensified. Arin heard his mother's voice, thick with sorrow, then his father's, heavy with despair. Asterisk. It's your fault, Ari. You couldn't save us. You couldn't save me. Asterisk. He stumbled, his foot slipping on a loose chunk of concrete. Jet grabbed his arm, pulling him back. Careful, man! What's wrong? Arin shook his head, the voices fading. Nothing, just tired. He knew what it was. The ghost, feeding on his regret, his shame. It was trying to break him. They reached the 45th floor, a vast, echoing space that felt like the maw of a beast. The wind howled through gaping holes in the walls, whipping dust and debris into miniature cyclones. Jet stopped, his face pale in the glow of Arin's headlamp. This is it, Arin. The final climb. The penthouse is 2 floors up, but the main access is compromised. We'll have to go outside. He pointed to a series of rusted rebar protrusions leading up the exterior wall of the building. A vertical spiderweb against the impossibly dark sky. It's a rough climb. And exposed. Thanom's men might have patrols up there. Arin nodded, securing his harness. They won't be expecting us from outside. As they began the exposed climb, the whispers returned, stronger now. Arin saw flickers at the edge of his vision. shadows moving in the windows of the floors below, impossibly tall, impossibly thin. The Pret, it was watching them. Suddenly, a massive section of concrete above them groaned, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through the rebar. A shower of dust and small rocks rained down. Jet yelled, "It knows we're here! It's trying to shake us off!" Arin pressed himself against the cold concrete, adrenaline surging through him. He saw a vision, vivid and terrifying. His father, face gaunt, standing on the edge of a pier, the dark river swirling below. Asterisk. Failure. Ari, you are a failure. Asterisk. He fought the hallucination, forcing himself to focus on the next handhold, the next precarious step. This was the Pret. This was its weapon. He would not give it his despair. He climbed, his muscles screaming, the ghost's whispers trying to tear him down. They reached a service door on the 47th floor, battered but intact. Jet picked the lock with practiced ease, and they slipped inside, panting. They were in a narrow maintenance corridor, dimly lit by a single, flickering bulb. "Almost there," Jet whispered, his voice strained. "Penthouse, 49th floor. Main access through here, then up a final stairwell." He looked at Arin, a strange glint in his eye. "You're strong, Arin, very strong. A beacon." Arin barely registered the odd compliment. He was focused on the task at hand. Nari. They navigated the last 2 floors of maintenance corridors, the air growing thick with the scent of incense and something else, something metallic, like blood. They heard chanting, low and guttural, growing louder as they approached the penthouse. Jet led him to a heavy, ornate door, ironically out of place in the dilapidated structure. It was made of dark wood, inlaid with symbols that Arin didn't recognize but felt instinctively were ancient and malevolent. "This is it," Jet whispered. "The gnome's shrine, the heart of the Pret." He looked at Arin, a wide, unsettling grin spreading across his face. "You, ready to meet your sister, Arin?" Arin nodded, drawing his Glock, switching off the safety. "Ready." Jet's grin widened, losing all warmth, becoming a predator's sneer. "Good. Because I have a very important role to play." Before Arin could react, Jet slammed a heavy elbow into his solar plexus. The air exploded from Arin's lungs, and he stumbled back, gasping. Jet, moving with surprising speed, disarmed him, the Glock clattering to the concrete floor. He then pulled a wicked-looking blade from his boot, pressing it against Arin's throat. "Surprise, surprise," Jet purred, his voice losing its amiable quality, becoming hard and cold. "You really are a beacon, Arin. So much anger, so much determination. Thanom will be pleased. A fine offering indeed. You're with Thanom," Arin choked out, the betrayal a bitter taste in his mouth. "Always," Jet replied, a shrug. "Someone has to monitor the supernatural activity for the boss. Make sure the spirit is well fed. And bring him special guests. Your sister, she was a brave one, but too disruptive. The spirit was angered. And you, my friend, you are the perfect appeasement. The strong spirit, the traumatic connection to the tower. The Pret will drink deep tonight." Jet kicked open the heavy door. Inside, the penthouse was transformed. Ornate tapestries covered the grimy walls. Flickering candles cast dancing shadows across a makeshift altar in the center of the room. Thanom, corpulent and sneering, stood before it, dressed in flowing robes, surrounded by half a dozen burly guards. And there, tied to a stone pillar behind the altar, was Nari. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with terror, but a flicker of defiance remained. She stared at Arin, her mouth moving, screaming his name, but no sound came out. A gag was secured tightly over her mouth. "Ah, Arin Vongvichai," Thanom's voice boomed, rich with malevolent satisfaction. "The prodigal son returns. And just in time for the ceremony. Jet, Excellent work. You've brought me a most exquisite offering. Arin lunged, a roar tearing from his throat, but Jet, surprisingly strong, held him fast, the blade still at his throat. The guards moved forward, their expressions grim. Then the tower groaned. A deep, resonant tremor that shook the entire penthouse. The candles flickered wildly, and a dust cloud rained down from the ceiling. Outside the massive panoramic windows of the penthouse, the Bangkok night was suddenly darker. An immense shadow fell across the glass, stretching upwards, obscuring the stars. The Pret. Its colossal form loomed into view, dozens of feet tall, its emaciated body an impossible silhouette against the night sky. Its skin was the color of decaying concrete, its limbs impossibly long and thin. Its belly, grotesquely distended, was a monument to its insatiable hunger, and its mouth, a tiny, needle-sized aperture on a massive, starved face. It moved with a slow, deliberate purpose, its immense, silent gaze fixed on the penthouse, on the ritual, on them. The guards cried out, some recoiling in terror. Venom, however, just smiled, a look of ecstatic reverence on his face.
Yes, it comes. It accepts. The offering pleases it.
Jet, momentarily distracted by the manifestation, loosened his grip. It was all Arin needed. He twisted, breaking free, and landed a vicious elbow to Jet's jaw. Jet staggered back, dropping the knife. Arin dove for his Glock, but a guard was already there, kicking it away. "Get him!" Venom shrieked, pointing at Arin. The guards rushed him. Arin, fueled by rage and adrenaline, became a whirlwind of precision strikes. He moved with the brutal efficiency of his Arintourage 26 training, dodging a wild punch, disarming one guard with a snap of the wrist, using the man's own momentum to send him crashing into another. On the crumbling ledges, stories above the city, a desperate, high-altitude battle erupted. The Pret watched, its silent gaze fixed, the air growing colder, heavier. Hallucinations flickered at the edges of Arin's vision, his father, accusing, despairing. Nari, younger, crying, blaming him for their family's ruin. He fought them back, using the pure, unadulterated fury coursing through him. He slammed a guard against the altar, shattering a clay idol. The Pret outside stirred, a silent psychic scream echoing in Arin's mind. It was angered. One by one, Arin dispatched Thanom's men, using the perilous environment to his advantage. He kicked a guard over a low railing, sending him plummeting into the dark void outside the penthouse. Another he disarmed, then used the man's own gun to knock him unconscious. Jet, recovering, charged at him with a wild cry, but Arin sidestepped, tripped him, and sent him sprawling into the broken glass of the panoramic window. Jet screamed as the glass shards bit into his skin. Only Thanom remained, cowering behind the altar. Arin's gaze swept across the room, past Nari, past the terrified tycoon, to the altar itself. It was large, made of rough-hewn stone, and built directly over what could only be the tower's central structural pillar, the heart that connected the entire derelict monument to the desecrated ground below. A sudden realization struck him, clear as a lightning bolt. The Pret wasn't just times and times the tower, it was times anchored times to it, to the desecration, to Thanom's ritual, which only further cemented that connection. He couldn't fight the ghost directly, but he could sever its anchor. He remembered the breaching charge in his pack, still secured to his back. A small, powerful, explosive, designed to blow through reinforced doors. "You fool!" the Nom shrieked, seeing the look in Arin's eyes. "You'll destroy us all! The tower will fall!" Arin ignored him. He sprinted to Nari, quickly cutting her bonds with his tactical knife. "Stay low," he yelled, pushing her behind the altar. He ripped open his pack, pulling out the compact charge. He slapped it onto the side of the stone altar, directly over where he estimated the central pillar lay beneath. He armed it, the timer beginning its silent countdown. "No!" the Nom roared, lunging forward, his face contorted in a mask of pure terror and rage. "My power, my life!" The Pret outside let out another silent, psychic scream, its immense form pressing against the glass, its needle mouth twitching. It sensed his intent. It tried to flood his mind with despair, with visions of his father, but Arin focused, his eyes fixed on the timer. 3 seconds, 2, 1. The breaching charge detonated with a deafening crump, more a concussive force than an explosion. The stone altar shattered, sending fragments of rock and dust flying. A deep, jagged crack spiderwebbed down the thick concrete of the central pillar, a gaping wound in the tower's heart. The effect was instantaneous and profound. The Pret outside recoiled, its immense form shimmering. It let out a soundless shriek of agony, a wave of pure psychic despair that slammed into Arin and Nari, dropping them to their knees. The energy of the ghost, once cohesive and terrifying, began to fragment, to dissipate. The tower groaned again, a different sound this time. Not the creaking of decay, but a sigh of release. The oppressive cold in the penthouse lifted. The Pret, its anchoring severed, began to dissolve, its immense form blurring, losing definition. Thanom, screaming curses, scrambled through the dissolving form of the ghost, a figure of pathetic rage. He tried to grab at the fading energies, to hold onto his power, but the Pret, in its death throes, seemed to consume him, pulling him into its spectral void. Or perhaps he simply lost his footing on the crumbling floor, drawn in by the phantom currents. Either way, with a final choked cry, Thanom vanished. "Arin!" Nari gasped, pulling herself up, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and awe. "No time!" Arin yelled, grabbing her arm. The tower was groaning now, not in pain, but in protest, as if finally shaking off a long, dark dream. The central pillar, though cracked, held, but smaller cracks spiderwebbed across the floor. He pulled out his rappel line, securing it to a sturdy, exposed rebar beam that was still anchored to the main structure. "We're going out the way I came in! Down the outside!" Nari, ever the documentarian, didn't hesitate. She looked at the dissolving Pret, which was now a faint, shimmering haze against the rising dawn. "It's gone." "Just quieted," Arin corrected, tightening her harness. For now. They went over the edge, the Bangkok skyline stretching out below them, already bathed in the pale light of dawn. The rappel was perilous, the building itself seeming to shift and sway around them. Dust and small chunks of concrete rained down as they descended. The wind, once a hungry shriek, now felt like a cleansing breath. Floor by floor, they descended, a slow, controlled fall through the quieted, watchful tower. They hit the ground just as the sun broke fully over the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and soft purples. Arin pulled Nari into a tight embrace, a bone-deep relief washing over him. She was shaken, bruised, but alive. They looked back at the Sathorn Unique Tower, now bathed in the gentle morning light. It still stood, a gaunt, defiant monument, but it felt different. The oppressive aura was gone. The silence was no longer a threat, but a whisper of peace. Its legendary hunger, for a time, finally quieted. The concrete tombstone still loomed, but for Arin, it no longer represented his father's defeat, but his sister's survival, and perhaps, a quiet victory of his own.